Hello and welcome back, everybody. Good to see you again, or have you in attendance, I should say, for another MedFit Education Foundation webinar. Today's topic, how to take your fears from foe to friend, with our great friend Lisa Charles, CEO of Embrace Your Fitness and author of Yes, Commit, Do, Live. Now, to our guest, Lisa Charles is a federal prosecutor. Let's say that again, federal prosecutor turned singer, actress, wellness expert, certified health coach, and consultant. She serves as the fitness and wellness research coordinator at Rutgers University. And she is, like as mentioned, CEO of Embrace Your Fitness LLC and author of Yes, Commit, Do, and Live. Lisa empowers individuals to let go of their limiting beliefs and embrace who they truly are. Now, without further ado, Lisa Charles, take it away.
Thank you so much, Brian. I am ecstatic to be here today to talk about one of my favorite topics, fear. So really what I do in my everyday life is, I like to say, I combine the brain, the body, and your beliefs, and alignment specialists to really help you to conquer some of the things that just may be standing in your way. And the big F word, fear, could be one of them. I've definitely seen it in my own life. I've seen it in other people's lives where it closes doors, it limits opportunities, it lessens your ability to be fully who you are and who you were meant to be, to step into your excellence. And so today what I want to do is really take some time to talk about what this fear thing is, because all the way through my transition from different careers and being in the singing industry and then being in the wellness industry, I heard a lot of things about fear. You know, nothing to fear but fear itself, or just conquer it, step on it, move past it. And I tried a lot of those things. And for me, I found that they were not really satisfying. And so one of the things that my brief tenure, my 3-year tenure, I should say, at Rutgers, Brain and Aging Health Alliance gave me was just the understanding of the brain. And that coupled with the body, boy, that's what we're going to do today. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is just the science of fear. Because this thing, this beautiful brain that you see here, and I always like picking pictures. Of course, your brain is probably not purple, but I love to see the electric impulses that are going through. And I think to myself, all the neurons and all the connections that are being made and the neuron pathways that are being created, or that can be created. It is a very active part of our body and is constantly taking in everything that's happening to you in real time. And one of the things that it does is helps you to look at this thing called fear, right? So I'm actually, before I even get into some of this and really get to some of the heart of it, I had just a very brief video. It's Your Body on Fear that I wanted my partner here, Brian, to play for you. And I just want you to let the information immerse over you as you learn a little bit about what your body does when it's in fear. So you can play that, Brian. Awesome.
Here we go.
Your heart and thoughts race. Your palms sweat. Your stomach churns. You're afraid. This is your body on fear. Fear evolved in humans to protect us. When you're scared, your brain sets off an elaborate and coordinated response, even if there's no threat. These physical changes, from deep inside your brain all the way to the muscles in your legs, happen in seconds. That's because of your sympathetic nervous system, or your fight or flight response. It's part of your autonomic nervous system, which manages reflexes like breathing, digestion, and your heartbeat. Fear kicks your fight or flight response into overdrive. Your adrenal glands secrete adrenaline. Blood flow decreases to your brain's frontal lobe, which is responsible for logical thinking and planning. Your amygdala, a more animalistic part of your brain, takes over. Your heart rate and blood pressure increase. You breathe faster and your muscles tense up. Your pupils dilate so you can see the threat more clearly. Blood flows away from your extremities, making your hands cold and clammy and making you feel flushed and sweaty. Your digestion slows down. Your body doesn't know the difference between a real threat and a perceived threat. That's why your fight or flight response kicks in during things like public speaking or being in a crowd. To your fear response, you're always running from a predator in the woods. It's just trying to keep you alive.
Well, I love playing that. I love for you to see that your body is just doing what it needs to do when it needs to do it and the way it needs to do it. And so instead of coming at it with like, I got to get rid of this thing called fear, I think we have to look at it in a different light. And we have to have a perspective of what we can do to appreciate what our body does, but how and what are some of the tactics that we can do to make our relationship with fear, if you will, be something that's more of a positive nature than a negative nature. So as mentioned in the present, I come in and out of focus, but that's okay because I like to blow my little charts up here. But here we go. We have this brain, all these great things are happening. The video just said some of them, but I love to think about like the brain stem, you know, when you have that frozen response. I don't know if you've ever seen it, like someone scares you or you go to a haunted house and your first thing is to freeze, not to run, and you know where that comes from. And this fine communication that's going through your brain, you know, signaling when it is to be in that fight or flight response. And then what should we do about it? The hypothalamus saying, okay, there are certain things that we need to pump so that we can change the body's chemistry so that they can respond to this fear, right? And at the same time, and I just want you to hold on to this prefrontal cortex, that front of your brain, which interprets your environment, which gives you context to things, knowing how to interpret who you've seen or something coming in your environment, a place, person, or thing, and it really relates to other things that you've had and other experiences. It really is what we rely on to interpret the environment we are in on the second by second basis. This becomes a non-existent during the real height of the fearful state. And so really you're right in the most emotional part of the brain, the amygdala. And so at that stage, there's a couple of things that happen, right? So there's the emotional side, and then there's the biochemical side. And on the emotional side, which we'll talk about a little bit, there's all these things that go on. So I want you just right now to think of any moment when you've been something that you classify as fearful. And you could, you know, be anxious. People can hear it in your voice. You can find yourself nervous or scared, defensive, confused, frightened, horrified, all sorts of words that can come along with this. I want you to remember introverted is one of them. But there's a lot of different things that come as a result, just an emotional reaction to this thing that's going on with fear. But there was also this thought on the biochemical side. So here we go. So you've heard of these instances where someone is afraid as something has really happened. Maybe there was an explosion or a car on fire, and a woman who doesn't lift weights is able to lift the car up and has the most amount of adrenaline and just rushing through the body, giving so much strength. Or you can think about, you know, someone that has to run from something, you know, you're running for your life. They always say running for, so you want this adrenaline to take over. You want what they call the fight or flight response to kick in, and hopefully you're on the flight side if someone's chasing you. But at the same time, there are really key things happening in your body. There's a complete shift of your blood flow, which you heard, moving away from your extremities. Your heart is racing. Some people can actually feel the boom, boom, boom of their heart beating at a rapid rate. Your blood pressure for some people is just out of control, but it can be very, very high. lots of muscle tension to allow you to do some things that you may need to do to keep yourself safe. And definitely, as we mentioned, the heart rate. So all of these things are going on. And as a natural aspect of it, your stress levels are very, very high. So here's the thing. This is not a bad thing in its basic definition. I saw recently there was big flooding in New Jersey before I moved down to Florida, and I understand that one of the alligators got out and he was walking down the highway. So if you were to come across the alligator, I would want some of those things that we just described to instantly kick in so to keep you safe. So there's those kind of fears. But I want you to look at a definition of fear defined. So it is a primitive human emotion. Absolutely. We've had it since we've been here and can say that we've been a part of this wonderful planet Earth. And it, as we said, alerts us to present danger and harm, both physical and psychological. The body knows no difference, right? But at the same time, it can be real threats or what they call imagined threats. And I don't know if you would be surprised, but let me surprise you if you are, that there are fears that are innate, but most fears are learned. And so in part, what we're going to really focus on is some of the learned fears, but I'm also going to address some of the innate fears, because there are things you can do to better position yourself to face whatever you have to face and whenever it's going to come your way. The thing that you also may notice is some people suffer under phobia. So if you have a fear, and you have the fear of this thing, this place, this experience, and you contain it and you hold on to it for a very, very long time, then you can maybe turn what was just a fear into a phobia. And this can be a consistent, irrational at times, compelling desire to avoid that person, place, thing, object, whatever it is. Definitely can see it in things of insects and spiders and dogs, and maybe it's from flying, and it might even be from elevated even to something that you do like public speaking, but you can make a phobia out of it if it's a prolonged fear. The difficulty with this is all those things that we discussed before that happen to the body when you're under fear, now you're keeping that in your system for a really prolonged period of time. And we'll talk about what all of that can happen to you. But before I do that, I just wanted to talk one other thing on phobias, because there's something called fear conditioning, right? So I had a niece, I have a niece, love my niece, she's still my niece, who had an experience with a dog. Okay, so the dog bit her, so it was a real aversive stimulus, right? And you can think of that in your life. So just put yourself in the place of something happening that is a bad experience. And it couples itself with something that's very neutral. So a dog is a neutral stimulus, right? There's nothing inherently horrible, dangerous about a dog, but the aversive stimulus is the bite. So you pair the two together, and now you have what we call fear conditioning. And you really put the amygdala on overdrive, right? So fear conditioning, this is when you're seeing all of these things, in addition to the things I mentioned earlier, the freezing, sometimes people are panting, increased cortisol levels, so your stress level is very, very high. You're really hyper arousal, so you're really super, super focused, higher than you need to be focused on a certain incident, hyper vigilant 24/7, trying to avoid something from happening. So this fear conditioning, which can take place, can really leave a lasting impact on your brain and your body and your overall beliefs of how you live your life. And so now you hear a dog bark, the dog is away, it's not even anywhere near you, and you can start to have the same impact as if the dog was right before you. You can see a picture of a dog for some people, and they can start to have the biochemical reactions that we described before and that was described in that lovely video. So it really happens in real time. And so how we look at fear and the relationship we have with fear is going to be so key to the relationship we have with joy and enjoyment of our life on a daily basis. So here we are, fear fallout, the fear fallout. Okay, it's doing its work. As I said, on the biochemical level. It's doing its work, as I said, on the emotion and emotional level. And there are some things that are specifically being secreted as a result of what we talked about before, in addition to the adrenaline, which is going to keep the heart rate really high. You have this cortisol levels that are going to keep your stress levels very high. And so that's all happening in real time. And then there's additional things that are happening to the body. And so some of these things, and I want you to think about, like in the times that we are and that we have experienced, this rapid heart rate sustained over a period of time is now going to lead to cardiovascular issues, may lead to cardiovascular issues that could be long-term. So think about it. Something that was meant to be inbred in us to protect us from a specific fear that came up now is being kept for a long period of time for our own fear conditioning, and now to a level where it starts to compromise our internal health. And right now thinking about your cardiovascular health. Well, compromised breathing, and when we get to the good news, which I am going to get to, of what you can do about all of this, but compromised breathing on a system where people already breathe too many breaths per minute, somewhere between 12 and 15, where it should be between 4 and 6, and we're already not oxygenating our bodies as we should for optimum health. And now you have a compromised breathing that is also tied to this perceived fear threat that may very well be irrational. Definitely anxiety, depression, and panic. So I want you to think about this for a moment. So this aspect of anxiety and how it can relate so effortlessly to the mood that you have, to the way that you feel on a given basis. And this can really have a dramatic impact on your enjoyment of life, but also on your overall health. So we really want to think about how, when someone is feeling anxious and they're thinking about the thing that is fearful, that's causing the anxiousness, how can we best address it without just saying, stop feeling anxious, or just do this over here and don't think about it? Is there another way or another path? In addition to all of that, just to add to insult to injury, there's so much else that can come. And if you're out there in webinar land, and you can put in the chat if you've ever felt any of these things, that is nausea and chills and chest pain, not just a rapid heart, red sweating, trembling, even an upset stomach. And some of this can even be in something we would call delayed response effect. And that means that, the episode happened and you're still feeling it so many hours, days, weeks later, just thinking about it. So there can be a delayed response effect to this thing we call fear. So all of these things that you can think of, and I just want to share with you, that I came to doing and really speaking on this subject because I wanted myself to figure out, how can we do something that's going to be different than just giving people a platitude to go with? Is there a way, if it's something that is biochemical, is there a way that we can have effect on it? If it's a way that, if it's a primitive reaction that we were born with, to have the ability to have these wonderful things happen in our system to prepare us for safety, is there something that we can do about it? And that's really the question. And the answer will be wonderful for you, because I'm going to hope that everyone here and everyone listening later on will say, you know what? I didn't know I could do something about it. I'd rather do something about it than just leave it to chance or let myself be, I call the living marionette, where life is sort of living you and pulling your strings by whatever's happening on the day-to-day basis. But I wanted to give a couple of other things that are here. And so when I give you some of the solutions, you can see that you can have a direct impact on something such as memory loss. So memory loss in and of itself, you saw all the areas of the brain that were really very, very active. And so when we talk about the the ability of the brain to really incorporate what is happening on a day-to-day basis, taking information into the hippocampus and then sharing that information with other regions of the brain. Well, if everything is taken away, the blood flow is different, the focus is different, the ability for those memories to be stored from short-term to long-term, or even effectively as a short-term memory, gets compromised. And you can have actual memory loss. Definitely loss of concentration, like your ability to really see something very clearly becomes the victim, if you will, of this. I often liken to see it like it's like looking at, if you were looking at a fog and you're seeing through and you're trying to see beyond all that's before you, and all you can see, hyper focus, is the mess that's around. You cannot see the forest for the trees, right? Your ability to think really reasonably is compromised, and you can feel like you are literally in a fog. And so one of the things that you want to do with the fallout is to kind of take into account that, boy, it's not just my rapid heart rate, it's not just the things that are affecting me at the moment, that there are things that I didn't even know could be related to the fact that I have fears that are undealt with, or fears that I am burying, that they could be causing me memory loss, they could be causing me loss of concentration. Just wanted to do a couple of other ones. Sleep disruption, which is huge. One of my passions as a health coach and as a brain body belief alignment specialist is to help people sleep, because people don't sleep because you should be having 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep per night. And just think, unrealized or unspoken about or buried so deep fear can actually interrupt your ability to sleep soundly through the night. All of this, well, of course, can start to affect confidence. And you might seem to feel like you're withdrawn, you are isolated. We have been through years of isolation, self-isolation, and for people that are meant to be communal, to be in relationship with one another, both in touch and talk, that self-isolation can really have very, very strong negative implications on your overall confidence of yourself and how you feel and see the world around you. So science says something, and it's backed up by the definitions that we have of fear. And there's some real fear fallout, both psychologically and physically, that has been shown by multiple studies. But here we are. And fear is not going anywhere. It's not going to disappear. You can't make it go away. So what if I pose this question? You could instead look at it in a different light. You could instead look at it as, maybe I could develop an amazing relationship with fear, that it could be used in a way to move me forward, to compel me to action, to help me step into another state of excellence, to help me get beyond something that's preventing me, a barrier that's preventing me from making a necessary change in my life. What if you could see fear from a completely different vantage point, as one that serves you? And at the same time, when there's an innate fear that happens, you are in the best health to be able to respond in a better way. I'm going to tell you that it's more than possible. I'm going to say that I've seen it not only in my life and lives of my clients, but it is something that you have to take a look at. You cannot put your head as an ostrich in the sand. You have to really kind of say, oh, all right, what is it that I can do and how can I do it? So here is the fear formula. Fear formula. I love it. Steps to change. They may seem simple, but we're going to have a chance to kind of put you in the right mindset and the right body set to do some of these, as simple as 5 steps. So I love doing things through case study, and why not put myself out there as the first case study on this particular formula. It is something that I developed because I needed to meet fear that was overtaking me at the time. So first step is acknowledge and accept fear, hold that thought. If you have a pen and paper, it's always great to write things down. It really incorporates in the brain in an entirely different way. It absorbs and you really can take it. So we're accepting and we're acknowledging. What does that mean? Well, there are a lot of people that are deniers. I call them deniers. I say, oh, do you have anything you're fearful of? And they say, I am fearful of nothing. For nothing can mount a defense against me, you know. And I say a denier because usually underneath that, if they were really to look deeply and evaluate based on situations that come, there often is some kind of fear and it's just not been realized, which means not spoken out loud, which means that you don't even know that it exists. Those are very dangerous fears because those are the ones that come out at times and you say, I didn't even know what happened. Like I thought I was going to be able to do. I started walking on the stage and suddenly my legs shaking. I don't even know where it came from. I didn't know I had a fear. It's good to know it. Acknowledge it. And also on the same night, instead don't be a denier, but don't be a pretender. Don't think that you've defeated it. So I told you I was a case study. So here I was. So I moved from the practice of law into a full-time singing and acting career, which was a dream. But here's the thing, going to auditions to sing. I moved from a career, I want to say it again, from practicing law. Now I'm up against other singers who have been just singing. Besides having imposter syndrome and things, I started thinking like, oh my goodness, I'm, auditioning for off-Broadway shows. And so some of those things that were happening that I mentioned before, the shaky leg and the chills and all of these things would happen to me. And I wanted to figure out, I tried to say, okay, just conquer the fear. I said, I don't have fear, I was a denier. I don't have that, or, I'll just destroy it. I've tried all of those things. But what I realized was, I had to acknowledge that it was a real thing. It wasn't pretend. It really came up every single time. So it wasn't a pretend thing. And the acknowledgement, and in the shining the light on the fear itself that you hold, you take away some of its power over you. It's no longer a surprise. You know it's there, you're acknowledging its existence, and now you can take one of the next really basic steps here, which is to find the fear's origin. What does that mean, Coach Lisa? What are you talking about? Well, you would think fear just comes from nothing. It just magically appears itself, but often it comes from feelings that you have about yourself. So if you're feeling unworthy, unloved, this kind of thing. It also can come from specific aversive experiences that have happened in the past, stimulus, right? Stimuli. So someone said something to you. Something happened when you were a child around that. You had a very negative experience the first time you did X. You went on a stage, you went in a car, you were around an animal, a pet. There's something behind it. And so you really want to take the time to understand, where did it come from? What is it? Once again, shining a light takes away some of the power. And now you can start to, what we call, take away and separate from the aversive side of things, that one incident, to the more neutral thing that you have now wrapped around this fear. And so there's nothing inherently wrong with going to an audition and standing there. There's nothing fearful about sharing a talent in and of itself, but it's what you wrap around, your decisions, your beliefs, what you think about, what your expectations for others are. So a lot of work goes into a simple thing of finding the origin. Now this one I love, focus on the positive, step 3. It's super cool, super easy. This is it. Did you hear me? Super easy. I say that because I'm retraining your brain, right? Did you know that you can change what was once negative positive? And that's brilliant when you're able to do it. It allows you to move what was once a negative thought or phrase into a different part of your brain and develop a new relationship with it. There's some real key steps that we're going to talk in the next fear solution, but you're really going to move this kind of thing so that you can, with the estimated, what do they say, 20,000 thoughts that can go through your brain in a day. They throw these things. How they get the exact number, but somewhere in the multi-thousands. So many people have a lot of them be on the negative, either regrets of things from the past, fear of something from the future, and so they're not really perfectly present here. And if most of those are on the negative, just think that's formulating and supporting and fuel for your fear, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about when we do some of the solution things. And in that process of focusing on the positive, you're going to transform the feelings. So the positive for me is, boy, when I go in this audition, I might get the part, which would be amazing. I want that part so badly. It's going to enhance my career. I'm going to meet other people. I'm going to develop a relationship with the producer. I'm going to develop a relationship with the production team. I'm going to really enjoy. I'm going to be dancing in my loves. All the positive things, the more I talk about and the more I focus on, the more I allow the endorphins that flow. We talked about some of the negative hormones that can flow when you're thinking fearfully, but when you're thinking positively, the serotonins, the love hormones that can flow, and the endorphins that can cover you, you start to transform a feeling. And then we're going to do this. We'll talk about this at the end. You're going to challenge yourself. You're going to dance in your fear. You're going to jump in them as many times as you can so that you can celebrate it, right? So fear situations, what are we talking about? Future events. I would love for you, if you have a fear that you have, put it in the chat, think about it, put it in your journal. Really, is it something specific? A fire, a spider, snake, something, insect. Is it a future event? Is it something real, like it's a real danger and this is what really, you have a fear of? Even in the real danger, sometimes people say heights are dangerous, but is it the height that's dangerous or falling out off the height that's dangerous? So even if in what you have interpreted as danger, I like you to put it, is it something that you haven't figured out yet, but you feel an uneasiness? Whatever it is, let's start now to acknowledge it. So before you leave this, you're gonna have acknowledged what it is that could be in your way. So like I said, here you go. You have these steps, which I provide to you, and I provide a story on how to use them. And you have, the science to know what's going on in your system. So what do we do with all of this? Because Lisa, Coach Lisa, there's science. You've already given that to me. We know it. Saw this fallout. Now I'm anxious because of all the things you just said. But here's the good news. Stop being anxious. You got so many different ways to do, and I want to share some of them in real time with you. This is what we're doing. We're balancing, right? Got these thoughts, we got these fears, the body's taking the emotions, the beliefs, and we're trying to find some kind of way to really deal with all of it. Great news, bang, look at this. You can change, you can reprocess. You can change your brain. I think this is great. Neuroplasticity is the ability to rewire your brain. You can use your body to regulate your brain. We're going to talk about ways to do that. And we can use our body to regulate stress, which is going to have a direct implication on all those biochemical hormones that are released. What? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I love this. I think of this as laying down those new neural pathways that you can do once you start to transition from negative to positive, once you transition from highly stressed to super calm, once you transition any of those different states, you start to transition the way and the communication system that's in your brain. And you can get to a point where you have a thought, dog, bite me. Oh, anxiety, pain, fear. What? I avoid, I run away. Whoa, see a dog. Dog didn't bite me. Wow, okay, so I'm a little fearful, but I'm not anxious and panicky, and I didn't want to run away. Wow, over time, series of different interactions, none of them bite me. Now I'm separating that aversive stimulus with this neutral stimulus, and next thing you know, you're able on the pathway to changing what was negative to positive, what was a fear to just everyday living. So there's that balance. I wanted to take the last moments here of my presentation and have time for some questions to give you a few things that you can do. So hard to be in the balance when your negative thoughts, you got 20,000 negative thoughts flowing through your mind, and hard to find all this peace and balance if that's what's happening. So a lot of the steps that we have for fear can be applied to each and every one of those little bugger negative thoughts. So if your negative thought is, oh my goodness, if I go in there, you know, I'll just crash and burn. This audition will just go nowhere and it'll crash and burn. And it's based upon someone said something to me back in choir when I was in 7th grade about I couldn't hold the tune or I didn't sing well, and that stayed with me. It created a feeling and it created a negative thought that could come and rise up. When I listen to that thought back, and I'm telling you it with about no emotion, and I know that, okay, there was a lot behind the person that said something, so I can dissect what the pearl that was really behind that negative thought. I can really find inconsistencies, emotional reasoning, false argument. I put on my full prosecutor's hat, right? And I'm giving it over to each one of you to say that you have the same way and ability to discern and to effectively strip a thought that might keep coming up of its power when you go through the process that luckily I'm sharing with you. So just breathe. We're going to do a little bit of this, Brian, and we're going to actually play a breathing video for you. I want you to know that it's, we're going to just do about half the video, and I'll tell Brian when done, but I just want you to feel what this feels like. And then I'll talk about a couple of other breathing ways about it. But Brian, if we could play the breathing video, that would be amazing. I just want you to feel what it feels like.
That would be flow, slow breaths.
Yes, flow,
All
slow breath. And
Here
as
we
we
go.
just get that queued up, just follow along and see if you can slow your respiration rate down.
Nirvana.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted you to get a sense of, just for, that was probably about 7 breaths, of what it is to take in an inhalation for 4 counts and breathe out for 12. That's going to get you to your 6 count breath per minute. And here's the beautiful thing. It will have a direct impact on lowering your respiratory rate, your blood pressure, your cardiovascular rate. It will calm you. It will signal the release of calming hormones, of relaxing hormones. It will move you into what we call the parasympathetic nervous system, which is really that allows you to relax. How does this have anything to do with fear? Well, here's the thing. You have to have strategy to put your body in the best position possible to deal with all that happens in your environment, and that is whatever is going to confront you. I need you to have a routine that you do on breathing that allows you to constantly have that internal connection. My programs are all top down, inside out wellness, and it allows you really to have that internal connection between the brain and the body. And I'm going to tell you this, here's the secret, come closer. There's no way better than breath. to allow you to connect. You can go a really long time without eating. You can go days without drinking. But let me tell you something, without breathing, you're about 4 minutes. So here's the thing. Working on a variety of ways to breathe is a wonderful solution for you. And I just wanted to give you this. So take some time to just do that 4-12 breathing rhythm, rhythmic breathing is wonderful. Alternate nostril breathing, closing one nostril, breathing in, closing it, and breathing out the other nostril. Phenomenal. Just think how close your nostril breathing is to your brain. So when you want quickly to really calm what's going on in your system, this is the perfect way to do it. At the time of breathing, really thinking those wonderful thoughts that are reaffirming positivity in your life in those positive ways. There's something that I want to talk to you about called EFT. This is super cool. I'm also going to give you this chart. If you don't know what EFT is, it's emotional freedom technique. And what it is a series of tapping in different points of your body that's tied to a meridian energy pathway. Could do a whole thing on this, but I wanted just to give you a breath of things that you have power to do. This works exceptionally well for people. And it's as simple as finding the meridian parts. I've given you some, nice little diagram here that I'll send home with each one of you. But if we do the outside of our palm and we tap on it, and you say something like, even though I'm feeling fearful at this moment, I deeply love myself, and you say this over and over. There are tapping points that you can have on your body. And for some people, it just is so soothing and relaxing. Once again, we're trying to get you in that state so that you can better deal with the things that are coming before you. For me, in singing, I would always have some breathing things that I would do, because when I started feeling a little short of breath, remember I said about redefining something from negative to positive, I knew that that was my body signal that it was time to breathe and we needed to just settle. Very effective, very effective. The other thing that's really wonderful is meditation, mantras, and you can play a little bit of that tape, Brian, that I have. I love for people to just be the forest and water and just the music. I love for people to be mindful that there's so many ways for you to connect with nature. Of course, I love you to go out and connect with nature. But the other thing that you can do is listen to the sights and sounds. Sometimes those sounds themselves can really take you to a place where you're super, super, super relaxed. If we don't have that, that's okay. I'm just going to keep going. You can put it on any time.
You got it right here. Lisa, I'm sorry, when I turn this on, it mutes you, so hit your microphone there.
Okay. Yeah, because it's just background noise. So you're going to hear some nature in the background. You're going to let that come and permeate within you. But we have so many different ways of doing things. So I want you to kind of think about all of these, and any one of these, a good coach like myself or anyone else can walk you through to make it meaningful in your life. But meditation, definitely. Mantra, saying a phrase over and over, a very positive phrase, can really calm the mind, the body, the brain, settle you so you're ready for whatever challenge you have. But one that I know that some people do, and I would love for you to consider doing this humming. There's actual a wonderful article that I was reading about the effects of humming on the vocal folds, and it stimulates that vagus nerve that runs between the gut and the brain, and it really is directly helping you to relax. So you really want to hum. You want to put your hands on your cheekbones and hum against the mask of your face. And it is a fabulous way to signal your brain and your body just to relax, right? So I gave you those, but look at this list. OMG, a major list. Of course, hypnosis, I have some really good friends that practice in that. It's not like, oh, now you're a dog, bark. That is not the purpose of hypnosis, but it does help you to get into a state of relaxation where you're more receptive to suggestion and action. There's something called flooding. Okay, so someone that put out something about a fear. Flooding is immersing yourself in the fear. Oh, I'm afraid of jumping out of the plane. Okay, get up, go, jump out of the plane, get back on the ground, get back up, jump out of the plane, get back up and jump. And under the principles of flooding, what you start to realize what was a fear, you'll find these other things, the adrenaline, the rush, the fun, the camaraderie, these other things, and it takes away the fear aspect of it that's preventing you from doing it. I'm big on writing. You know, I said, tell your story. I'm hoping some of you will tell me your story. What's your story? Because don't let it be in the shadows. We talked about that, address really as one of the principles. How we eat, huge. How we eat is huge. How we fuel our body tells our body how it has to respond. You fuel your body with really bad gas. I always say it's a car. How can I say it? You have a big old car. You say, you know what? I don't have enough money to put the gas in, so I'm going to mix half water, half gas and put it in the car. You would never do that, but let's just say you did. And then you say, this car broke down. You know, why? Because the car just doesn't react right. Well, if you're not fueling your body's just like that fine-tuned car, and it will not react in the ways that you want. So just think about this. If you're hyper stressed all the time, your body, one little stimuli comes in and next thing you know, you're over the moon in terms of your ability to deal with something. Maybe you can't even deal with it. All of those physicalities we mentioned go on high and it hits you in every way. Or are you of a calm nature, peaceful nature that allows you really to deal with whatever? The last one, which is on the list that's coming back to you that I just wanted to mention to you, is something called laddering. And laddering is taking a fear, whatever it is, and breaking it down into its component parts so that you don't have to jump in like a flood. You can ladder in very slowly so that you can say, okay, you know what, I am afraid of cats, so I'll watch a cat from a distance. My neighbor has one, I'll see it, I won't have it near me. Next time it's a little closer, but the next time it's in the room, but you're not touching it. And the next time you touched it, but you moved away. And then the next time you're petting it. So you ladder whatever your fear is in increments. If it's public speaking, there's a lot of ways to ladder that, right? You don't have to start with a crowd of 500. You start with your spouse, right? And then a friend, and then family. And so you ladder it. The key is whatever point that you made in the ladder, you must complete. You can't half ladder, because you don't want to reinforce that fear conditioning that I can't do it. So you ladder it as in many degrees as you need, but the key is you must complete it and then really celebrate the fact that you've completed that part of the fear. If you do all of these things, the things that we were talking about, moving fear, how you look at fear, I just need you to know in conclusion that some fears are innate, but most are learned. That you can have this fear conditioning, but you can have a role in taking away what is the aversive memory that you have and really look at the neutral thing that you're fearful of. That you can take your stress down and build your resilience by taking care of yourself, by how you sleep, by how you move, by how you fuel, by how you breathe, by how you take care of when you're feeling kind of stressed, so you never let your stress move beyond just it, you know, it's normal life. So we'll have stressful moments, but once the moment is gone, you want to come back to homeostasis. I think to know that you have the power to move your nervous system from a state of heightened fear to calm, and that you can do it by all the things that are listed there, but also finding a time for laughter and finding a time I think for others. I spoke on a show recently about Others Day, and it's amazing doing something for someone else has the direct health benefits to you as if you just did it for yourself. From your heart, from your respiratory system, from all aspects of your circulatory system, you can really advance your health from doing for others. And obviously, you're advancing others' health as well. So if you can look at fear as being on the other side of a new opportunity, as being on the other side of you doing your passion or you living your life to your full potential, you can start to embrace fear as really kind of a signal that something really great is on the other side. And so when I'm not under fear, at least some point at some time in a week, I'm saying, what am I doing? I must just be doing everything. And I'm in this kind of happy-go-lucky, nothing is moving state. I like to be moving forward in my life. And I want to give that gift to each one of you. Move forward, constantly challenging your brain, your body, your beliefs, constantly moving yourself from where you are to where you were intended to be. So thank you. I'm hoping there's some questions. Of course, I can talk on a couple of things that I didn't go over as thoroughly if we have a couple more minutes. But if there's a question on fear, I would welcome it, love it, dance in it, be all over it.
Lisa, you're fantastic. All right, Lisa, we do. Yes, thank you so much once again. It's, thank goodness for fear, right?
Yes.
I think that without it, we'd probably in this crazy world run out into traffic rather quickly, and we wouldn't last very long.
Very protective.
Yeah, absolutely. But people don't always see it that way. They see it as something that is a detriment to them. I think that they see fear as a weakness oftentimes. I think you talked about the denier, right? I often find that those deniers are, especially in this male population of machoism and everything else, there's just a tremendous amount of fear embedded within that quote unquote lack of fear that they have. So, I think that it begins and ends with feelings, and feeling that fear. You might feel it before you ever think it.
Yes.
Tell us about that. Where do people detect their fear? Where do they, I guess depending on the situation, is it someplace different often? Is it always in the gut? We just said to trust the gut. Is there a center point or a focus area for that?
Well, I really, I'm going to answer it two ways. One, I think it's very important to have a very good, clear sense of who you are from the inner and outer. So a lot of people walk around, they really have no idea who they are. They don't know what's most important. They don't know how to define themselves. And therefore, when something happens, they don't know what's happening. If I hear another client say, I just had this and I don't know where it came from, so it's really, I'm going to say, number one, you want to take a little time. I call it the best course you'll ever take, the course of who are you? And so that's going to really empower you so when these moments come. But on a physical side, a lot of times it can happen in so many different ways, right? For some people, they'll know because it'll happen instantly as soon as their foot hits a stage. It will be in the gut a lot of times, and for people, a lot of times it's in the shaky leg syndrome, I call it. That's just something I made up. That's not real. But it's when your legs shake, your limbs are shaking, or you start to lose breath. And what'll happen is the panic sets in. And so what I want to do with all the things and tools that I've given you is to stop the panic, because it's not a panic thing. That's a natural thing your body is doing. You do a few tools, and what you'll do is you'll eliminate it from taking over your body and preventing you from doing the thing that you were destined to do, right? Either to speak or to raise your hand or to say something or ask for your promotion or really go for that job interview in a way that really reflects who you are, and instead of being reflective of this person that is just a person that's masked in fear. Right now you can say, I know it sounds like it's a small thing, but if you can recast the things that are happening to you and say, oh, okay, right. So, okay, I'm feeling a little shaky around here. That just means that my body is awake, it's present, it's here, it's ready to go. I need that to be really present in this interview. So let me just really recast what's happening and say to my body, yep, I get it, I'm present. Now let me do my part, which is to nail this interview or to nail that audition or to do whatever it is that you have for you. Recasting any of these things. No one can tell me something I can't recast if you're willing to do a little of the work to get your body ready for it.
I love it. Gotta have the tools. Change creates fear.
Yes.
Change creates those feelings. And the speaking, we've talked about it, and all these things are just. But they're usually some pretty good opportunity, as you mentioned, on the other side of the fear. I've never been more scared than when I was driving my wife to the hospital to have a new child, right? I was fearful at that moment and equally excited. I don't think that those two things, I can be both at the same time, right?
I love that. That's embracing both and recognizing that one doesn't have to destroy the other. It's just an appreciation of what's happening in your body.
Absolutely, absolutely. I talk about it all the time in athletics and the kids that I train with running. You could be excited to run a race and be anxious about it at the same time. You could be excited to go away to college and be anxious and fearful at the same time. It's not an exclusive thing. Even we have here, Lisa Doherty has brought in here that public speaking is, she has no problem speaking about things that she's passionate about. However, when she gets time to talk about herself, fear, but again, opportunity is
It's
there.
an
And if you're talking,
opportunity. And Lisa, then now the next time you have to speak about yourself. And so here's a scoop. When you set it up to do this next speaking about yourself, which I know something's coming up, actually, I think I know something's coming up, which you're going to be speaking about yourself. This is going to be a great opportunity for you to retrain your brain about fear and how you handle it and how you do something. And so I always invite people, don't just do the things that give you a little uncomfortableness and then you do it anyway. Jump into the thing that you say, ooh, I don't know, maybe this is the thing that really is going to move the needle in you recognizing what your true potential is and for people to see who you really are. That's the needle mover for you, that thing that you're really putting off. And, if anything, I'd like this just to be a motivator to say, don't put it off. Like, have some strategy. I didn't say, flooding, I did mention it because it is a strategy, but I don't mention it for everybody. That's not everybody's strategy. There's so many other ones. Just don't be one of the people to put it in the background.
I love it. All right, we do have to wrap this up, but I'm just going to shout these out. Ellen Corey does not like going fast and rides or speaking in public. Let's see, Millie Evans is the biggest fear is of snakes. And look, we've all got something, and that's what makes us unique, and that's what makes us human, and that's what makes us, stay alive, as you mentioned. And, I feel really good and alive after speaking with you today, Lisa. It's always a fantastic time, and we thank you again for doing this for us on a Tuesday.
Thank you so much. And boy, everyone that named those fears, I expect to hear from you how you conquered, how you went and challenged yourself to meet it. Because any of them that I just heard, you can meet them.
Absolutely. Stay away from the snakes, right? Simple enough. All right. Thank you, Lisa. We'll see you next time, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.